Thanks for joining us for the AfterWord. Wherever you be, in the car or...
Wherever you be. Are you a pirate?
There's this there's a 90s radio station I listen to in town, and that's one of the things they say often because B is in their name, so I think it started to affect me a little bit.
Oh. Tell it.
There's no B in our name, though.
No.
The town Birch.
Tell us some about when that song comes on the radio on that 90s station. What do you just?
It's not
like.
a song.
What are you rocking out to?
No.
I'm saying, what is that song where you're like, shirts off, you're throwing goats?
It's Creed.
I'm throwing goats. Is that what you said? Okay, yeah. I know what that was.
It's Creed.
It's one of them. Yeah, Creed's one of them. Okay,
yeah.
And Pearl Jam and stuff like that.
Creed. You put. Okay.
No, I know they're not the same, but there's some similarities, I suppose.
Okay.
Welcome to the AfterWord. If you made it through that, I'm impressed, thoroughly impressed. We are going to look at the passage that we preached today. This is Sunday on money. So we're going to talk about money today and really about heart motivations primarily. And then we're going to see how we see God's glory in this passage. So I'm joined here by Vince Black, elder, paid pastor of the town church. I'm Eric Reeves, elder, paid pastor of the town church, and Kirsten Black. But to start, I'm going to ask this question. What is your favorite vacation spot? Maybe as a family, maybe as an individual. Where would you love to go for vacation that you've been to before?
That I've been to before. I think I have to qualify it with the times that I have kids with me and the times I don't have kids with me.
Yep, good qualifier.
Vacation feels different with children. And
it's not vacation.
It's life
a trip.
in a different location.
You have to adjust your expectations for sure.
I think maybe my favorite place that we've been as a family thus far is probably out in California on the coast. We camped right on the ocean for a week, but it was close enough to a town that we could walk there, and we walk every day and get ice cream. And there was lots to do, lots to keep the boys busy, mostly just playing in the water. So that was maybe a favorite vacation spot as a family. Maybe just if it's just Vince and me, maybe like a mountain cabin or something like that. So, something a little more low key. And like we went to Steamboat during mud season, which means there's no one there and there's nothing to do. And it was super restful.
And we didn't have our boys with us.
That's true.
Yeah.
Changes things. What about you, Vince? Anything different than Kirsten?
Yep. I would. We went to New York over Christmas, and I loved it. We were there 8 days, and
you're a city guy.
I am for strange reason. I love to be around people, but not have to talk to them.
You want to be anonymous.
But I want to be around. People are like, "Oh, you need rest. You should go up into the mountains and get a cabin and be there." And I think that sounds miserable to me. I want to be around people, but not have to talk to them.
That seems kind of strange to me. I'm just going to be honest. You want to be around people.
Yeah. I don't want to feel the isolation and loneliness of being out in the middle.
Isolated and
alone. Yeah, I was trying to not use the words in my description.
So
I don't want to be isolated and alone, but I don't really want to have conversations with people if I don't have to.
You just want people around.
Yep. Now, I don't mean that all the time. So, church, hear that. I'm not telling you to leave me alone.
That's a good adjustment.
Yeah. I just mean, when we went to New York for 8 days over Christmas, and we didn't really have a schedule. So I think was another question at some point. We didn't really have a schedule, but we had some things we wanted to do while we were there. Mm-hmm. And we kind of said, hey, what should we do today? And we went and we did those things. But it was pretty loose, and we got to explore a lot of the city. We walked 9 or 10 miles every day, rode the subway everywhere. I loved it. In fact, Asher and I were talking about it last night. We want to go back. We would go back again and again and again.
Man, it sounds stressful to me.
It was not. Was it stressful?
The anticipation of it was really stressful for me, but once we were there, it was fine. Okay. It was good.
Yeah, Kirsten gets stressed about new things.
Uh-huh.
It's true.
You're sitting right here, so you can correct this.
Cassie would say that about me as well. It's not a sexy thing about yourself to admit, but there's some truth to it, I think.
She likes order. I'll say it in positive ways. She likes order. She likes to know what to expect. She doesn't want surprises. I don't mean surprise. Like, she likes surprises, but not unanticipated things that could throw off the way things ought to be or could be.
Yeah.
So that's Kirsten. But this was, I think we had a place to stay. We had a home base. We were able to circle back around every day, have dinner or whatever. I loved it.
It helped that we did have a house to stay in, and it was walkable to like grocery stores and stuff like that. So I think once we got there and saw the house and we're like, okay, this is actually going to be great, then I was okay going off and adventuring. But until I actually knew like it wasn't a hole in the wall with rats, I was pretty stressed.
Yeah, I do like cities. I love the mountains. I love being up in the mountains. But if I'm going for some days, I'd rather have options for things to do. It's probably a discontent. It's probably a lot. I mean, if you were my counselor, Eric, you'd be
I am not.
You'd be getting paid a lot right now because I could tell you all the dysfunction in it. But yeah. How about you?
Oh, man. I should have thought about the answer before. I think, you guys are going to tease me about this. I love just staying home. Staycation, man. And I think part of
I'm
it...
going to make fun of you for saying staycation, not for actually wanting to be home.
I said staycation man even.
Yeah, you did.
I'm going to throw some goats. Is that what you said? Throw some goats on that one?
What that means is your index finger and your pinky finger up, and you're like headbanging, like throwing goats. Haven't you heard that?
No, I've never heard that.
Throwing goats.
I even knew that one, Eric.
Yeah. I like going... So if we did go someplace, it would be fun if it was someplace I'd been before. Because I like knowing what it is. I like knowing what to expect. Because then I can look forward to it. I know the rhythms. I can know what it is.
Yeah.
And being at home is more relaxing to me than being anywhere else. Except for maybe a cabin in the woods, like day 2 or 3. That could be, because then you kind of know what it is, what's around, and what's going on. I know it's not super exciting, but for me, I like it.
Years ago, I was in a season of being pretty stressed out and burned out. And so Vince was trying to get me some time away from the boys, and he was trying to send me away. And I was like, no, that feels really stressful going away somewhere. So
you all go away. And I'll say that.
He took all 5 boys away for a week, and I stayed home by myself, and it was so restful.
Yeah, I believe it.
It was so restful. And they even cleaned the house and did the laundry before they left, so that they're like, there's nothing for you to do. So you just stay here and rest. And it was glorious. So I understand that.
They loved you well. I'm getting old enough where I'm just kind of embracing these pieces about me now.
You're embracing your boring,
I'm not exciting.
Your boring life.
Yeah, exactly. I'm kind of boring. I'm just going to embrace it.
Mm-hmm.
Should we talk about something probably more important now?
Sure.
Okay. How about you give us a recap from the text today?
All right. It's a pretty easy recap. It's only 4 verses. Jesus turns a corner from the laws that he's been stating and then restating, and gives us a warning in verse 1 of chapter 6 to be careful that we are not exhibiting our righteousness so that other people would be seen. And verse 1 is an introduction to all of chapter 6, because we'll hit several topics over the next several weeks where he gives us another one. So verse 1 is an intro to that we are to watch ourselves, our hearts, for exhibiting righteousness or moving toward righteousness so that other people would see us. The first example he gives is that of money and our giving it away, our generosity of it. So he just walks through what that looks like. So the pattern, I'll do this week. The pattern that we see is he gives the self-righteous act and the reward that comes from that, or the detriment that comes from that, and then the righteous act, or the righteous way to be thinking about that. And often he gives then the reward from God that comes from that. So that's what we see here. He gives the unrighteous act of giving money away so that you're seen, blowing a trumpet. Hey, look at me. I'm giving money so that I'm praised by others. And then he moves from that to say, hey, that's your rule. Great. You got it. That's your reward. You were praised by others, so that's all you get. The righteous way of looking at that is he he says, no, instead when you give, you're to do that in quietness and silence, that your right hand doesn't know what your left hand is doing, that it's not something that's out there flaunted, and that because of that, our Father will reward us. So there you go. That was a longer summary than me just reading the text. How about that?
Yeah. So all about the heart, all about motivations.
It's all heart, motivation.
The action, you can't tell just from the action what your motivation is. Oftentimes, I think, probably.
Here's what I'm going to add this real quick.
Yeah.
Sorry. There are several. So the prayer is next. This one was money. Prayer is next. Fasting. Storing up treasures. What's interesting, I think, is they are heart-motivated things. Mm-hmm. At the same time, they're not just heart issues. There is actually a call to obedience.
Yeah.
So he's not saying, "Hey, don't worry about your giving. If it's too much on your heart, don't worry about it." No, your heart needs to be in a place of that it's pure, and also you need to be obedient. So that's the balance I was trying to communicate.
So I think there's a few things to talk about here. This is where I want to start, though. This is different than what we had talked about earlier, Vincent Kirsten. What I'm curious about, and I'm in these conversations enough, and I feel this enough, I want to ask this question about giving in particular. So if Jesus is talking about the motivation of the heart, that we are to give in such a way that's not to try to get something for ourselves, that often can lead to a sense of paralysis, I think, because, well, if my heart isn't quite where it should be, then should I stop giving altogether? Now, you just mentioned that giving is still an act of obedience, but can we talk about this a little bit? So it could be prayer, it could be other things that we're going to see, but today it's giving. When I know that my motivations are mixed, which they almost always are, how do I think about that when I go ahead and give anyway? I'm just going to leave it at that.
Can I play devil's advocate a little bit?
Yeah.
And put it on some other things. Would we say that about anything else?
Like what?
Well, my heart is just not in prayer, so I guess I just won't pray. My heart's really not in loving my wife, and so I'm not going to love my wife right now. I'm going to wait until I have a better heart to try to love my wife, but I'm not going to do it right now. I think because it's money, it's easier to sort of, and I'm not saying you were suggesting this. You're actually asking the question. But I don't think, because it's money, I think it's a little easier to say, yeah, my heart's just not there right now, and I don't want to do it from a bad motive. So I'm going to pray and ask God to help me in my heart motive here. And then when that's right, I'm going to give. But is there anything else that we would say, yeah, that seems like a good idea? Don't do the thing you ought to do and you've been commanded to do until your heart is right in that thing.
I mean, I think often we use prayer or the excuse of wanting to have our hearts in the right place as an excuse for inaction. Mm-hmm. And so, I don't think we do that in most other places in our lives. I mean, I could see it in prayer. I could see it in some of those areas. And I have seen, maybe the world says I don't feel like loving my spouse, so I'm not going to do it anymore. So those are things that happen. And yet I don't know that it's ever honoring to God for those things. And I think in most things we tend to try to be disciplined, and we continue to try to do it even when we don't feel like it. Like the number of days that I just don't feel like being a mom, or I don't feel like parenting well. I'd rather let my kids do whatever they want because I don't feel like parenting them well. And yet I still show up and I still parent my kids and I still love them. And so I think a lot of the times we'll use those excuses because really we don't, it's a way to put off what we know what we ought to do.
So I'm going to put the question back out there again. If we're in a place where our heart motivation is wrong, let's just play out a scenario. For years and years, this is a hypothetical, by the way. For years and years, I've decided to give $100 a week to the church. We'll just say it's to the church. And I do it in the box, and I make sure that it's a $100 bill so people can see it. And I've done that with some pretty wicked things going on in my heart. I'm thinking I want to do it right in the middle of the greeting time so everybody sees me. I want to make sure that people know my consistency and that it just becomes a regular rhythm that people know this about me. Is the correction for that, I'm going to stop giving. We wouldn't say that's the correction. The correction would be, let's get at the motives, the heart motivation behind it, and bring some correction to how it's being done. But we wouldn't say, so stop being disciplined.
You have to ask, what does repentance look like in that situation? And so the sin is not the giving. The sin is the heart motivation behind the giving. And
what it's caused you to do and receive, yeah.
Yeah, and so I think that when you consider what does repentance look like, repentance is probably never going to be stop giving. It's going to be, how do I change my motives? How do I change the way that I go about giving? And maybe in the converse, if I'm not giving, what does repentance look like? In that situation, it's still heart motivation. Like, are you not trusting the Lord to provide? Are you being selfish? Are you being greedy? Are you living in a way that's maybe above your means? Like, what is it in your life that you need to repent from that's causing you to not give? And then that in turn will hopefully affect your heart and open up an opportunity for you to give.
So if I am recognizing mixed motives in my giving, the answer is not to stop giving until my heart has a better percentage of right motives in it. Rather, it's to give anyway. There's an act of obedience. And to get my heart to where it needs to be, this is what you were getting at, Kirsten, I think, the very act of giving, God graciously often uses to get my heart to the right place. And then to give in the ways, like to your example, Vince, to not go in the middle of greeting time, or to give in ways that actually are not making it all about you.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think the question is I still would like to push the question some and say, if our heart motivation is wrong, should we continue to give anyway? And just think about changing the way we do it. What are some steps? Because that's probably a very real thing. Mm-hmm. I mean, this is we've all been in, I'll say it this way. We've all been in places where we're giving because we know we ought to give. Mm-hmm. So what is the correction in those times?
I mean, you said today that giving is a habit and we're formed by our habits. Yeah. And so for me, in the times that whatever spiritual disciplines there are, that my heart's just not in it, it's, I think, confessing it to the Lord and just saying, God, like today, I really don't feel like being in your word. I don't feel like sitting down and reading. And I know that my heart is not where it ought to be, but I'm going to trust that doing this and being disciplined in this is going to create something in me that is pleasing to you, that you say your word doesn't come back void. And so I'm going to do this, and I need you to change my heart. And I think that could be the same with all of the disciplines. Like it could be with prayer or in giving. Like we can still act in obedience even when our heart is not there, and then trust that the Lord is going to be at work changing our hearts. But sitting in inaction doesn't actually give God the opportunity to be working on our hearts. It just, we're expecting him to do something that he may not do. You know, he might, but we're expecting him to work in ways when we're holding our fists, very tightly clenched and saying, okay, you need to open my hand. And rather than saying, okay, my hand is open now, would you help this to be a delight rather than something that I need to hold on to?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess if I'm noticing mixed motives in my heart with my giving, and I have no desire for that to change, really don't care, that's one scenario.
Sure.
Right? But if I do have a desire for it to change, for God to change my heart, then I think continuing to give and asking God to change my heart, and to give in such ways that I'm trying to be faithful to Jesus' words here and not make it all about myself, while realizing there's probably always a strain of my heart currently that does make it about myself. It's got to be the path forward. It can't be paralysis. I'm just not going to then.
I wonder if one way to think about some correction is to have at least one trusted person in your life who's not directly tied also to your finances. So maybe not your spouse. A trusted person. I'm not talking about a giant accountability group or your township or something like that, but a trusted person who's asking you some hard hard heart questions about your finances. Could be helpful.
Oh, I think it's needed. I mean, we're talking about the heart and finances. This gets really personal, really, really fast. For me, I think with my giving, where I wrestle with this, with the heart motivations, with the wrestling, and make it about myself. I think at times I give is so that I feel good that I gave. So there's not the guilt or the shame. Because I know I'm supposed to. I'm a Christian, and to be able to give, so I feel like I'm off the hook a little bit. I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. But I don't think that's the vision that we have of giving in the New Testament. I don't think that's what Jesus is getting at either. What I lack, I think, is the joy to be able to give and give sacrificially, which I don't know that I have done much of. Like a positive pull and invitation to me rather than I'm just trying to avoid some guilt that I might feel over my lack of giving.
Yeah.
I think I would say, though, that I think what the enemy wants us to believe is that we have to have it figured out before we act in obedience.
Yeah.
And so until I'm ready and at 100%, like joyfully, sacrificially, then I just need to pause. And I think that's a lie from the enemy, that there's nothing in our lives that we do to perfection. And so to be paralyzed or wait until we're ready, till we feel ready, is not obedience. And so I think we have to be willing to say, God, my heart is not where it needs to be. I want my heart to be where it is. So I'm going to give this in obedience, and I'm going to trust that you're at work in my heart, changing my heart, but still walking in obedience. Like we can't just sit and wait until we feel ready. We have to act in obedience and then trust that the Spirit's going to take what little sacrifice that we have and make it pleasing to Him.
I think that's what I was saying earlier, that I don't think there are other things that we would say that. I don't really feel like loving my wife, so I'm not going to do that today. That's not the direction we go. There are commands on us in Scripture, and there are disciplines that we know form us that we would be foolish to not move toward, right? And I think this is one of them. I was thinking about what Paul says in 2 Corinthians 9. He says, each one must give as he has decided in his heart, not reluctantly or under compulsion, for God loves a cheerful giver. And I think all of that's, it is all important, not I think. It's all important. Each one of us must give as he has decided in his heart. So it's a heart thing. It's a heart-motivated thing. This means that somebody cannot tell me what I ought to give to someone in need. That this has to be something that is a heart-motivated generosity. It's not reluctant. And it's not under compulsion. It's not out of this guilt, because God loves. If you're under compulsion and you're giving because someone told you had to, that's not going to be cheerful. Mm-hmm. I can't think of many things where somebody says you must do this and you must do it in this way, that I gladly do cartwheels to do that. Right? Mm-hmm. It's got to be something that is coming from the heart. That's 2 Corinthians 9:7, by the way, if you're looking at that.
I listened to another sermon this week on this passage, and the preacher talked about the difference between viewing God as a boss versus a father, and how boss is more transactional, like you did this for me, you hired me, so now you need to pay me, and these are the things that I'll perform for you. And so how often we have our hearts kind of viewed, our hearts view God as a boss rather than as a father. And so as I was trying to think through those two different approaches, there were times, I'm just fleshing this out as I'm talking, so we'll see how it goes. There were times when my boys were little that they wanted to buy a gift for Vince or for me, and they had no money. And so they would come and say, hey, can you give us some money because we want to buy you a gift? And so clearly there's no benefit to us. Like there's only loss in that, because we're giving them money, then we're taking them. So there's time for them to go buy us a gift, which probably is like, some like world's greatest dad mug or something, something that we don't necessarily treasure. There's only loss for us in that. And yet what's being trained in our boys' hearts in that is generosity. It's thinking of others. It's looking to the one giving them the resources that they can in turn bless that person, bless their father who gave them that money. And so I wonder if we were to look at God as a father and we're going to God and saying, you've given us these resources, and so now how can we turn around and give them back to you? How can we bless you with them? And so really not looking at it as a transactional thing, but as a father who's given us all these resources. And so now, God, they're all your resources. So rather than looking at money as how much money do I need to give back to God? How much of my money do I need to give back? We could say, this is all God's money. So how much of this do I keep for myself? It's not actually my money. So God, what do you want me to keep and what do you want me to give away?
Yeah, and that's how I think twisted the human heart is, isn't it? Because really, in reality, what I'm doing is I'm taking something that's not mine anyway, that God has given me, and figuring out how can I make this about myself? How can I give in such a way that it makes it about myself, whether it's somebody externally or internally? Vince, go ahead.
No, you go.
I was going to change the topic a little bit.
I was too.
You had mentioned in your sermon that this cuts both ways. We've talked a little bit about how giving money, we can make it about ourselves, and Jesus talks about the hypocrites and the trumpets. But by not giving money at all, it can also be about ourselves. Can we flesh this out a little bit? How could not giving money be about yourself too?
Well, that goes along with the question I was going to ask, trying to change gears a little bit. What are some of the excuses that we use for not giving money?
I need to be responsible and care for my family. And if I give away some money, it's cutting into that.
Okay. What's the heart behind that, do you think? I mean, this is all speculative, right?
Yeah, the heart issues, right? Like on the giving the benefit of the doubt, it's I want to care for my family.
Yep, that's good.
Yep, the father, husband, whatever that situation is. On the other side, it's a pretty easy excuse to never give money at any time, depending on how I define caring for my family.
Yeah, or the heart issue could be a lack of trust in God to truly provide for your family in ways that you'll never be able to.
Yeah, but...
Here we go.
Yeah.
Here comes the but.
So God has provided me a job. Can't that be how he has decided sovereignly to provide for my family?
In this moment.
And so if I give away... I know this is slippery, but just hear me out. If I give away too much, in quotes, money to where I can't pay my mortgage anymore, then isn't that me being irresponsible and less an issue of trust, but more about me being irresponsible?
Right. I think so. I mean, there's responsibility, there's wisdom. There's all of those things are mixed into this. Right?
Yeah, it's complex.
Yep, and God gives us brains. He gives us wisdom. He is the giver of all wisdom, so he's given that to us. So yeah, we have to use all of that, right? That's all a part of the conversation.
I think you also need to broaden the question of what are you teaching your children in the way that you're using your finances? Like what is it that you're communicating to your family in the way that you're using finances? Are you communicating that you are the one that provides for them? Or are you ultimately communicating like God is the one that provides and I'm going to be obedient to that? And so, that was a good gift my parents gave me, is that we had very little money growing up. Like we had enough for food, enough for clothing, enough for shelter, and that was about it. And yet my mom was very, very faithful every month. She did all of our finances. She was very faithful every month to tithe. And that was never a question of whether or not they were going to do that. And that was a good gift to me because that was something that created a discipline in me and understanding that that's a discipline that I need to have as well. And so I think that we're communicating a lot more than we realize by the way that we're using our finances. We're communicating things about God and about our own view of God, and we're passing that on to our kids.
And at the same time, nothing against your mom. She's a dear woman. At the same time, that could have come, even though she did give monthly, that could have come from a wrong heart motivation. I'm not saying it did, but even that, even our giving out of our lack of resources can come from a twisted heart motivation.
Yeah.
So it can be if it's not cheerful, well, I guess I'll do this because I have to. I feel like it's going to win me some favor with God, or people know what I give, and so they're going to know this and think differently of me. I'm not saying that's your mom, so take that off your mom. I'm just saying it's that even our giving out of our lack can be motivated poorly.
But this is what's so frustrating about this, because it is about the heart. There's not like, now just go do these 5 things and you can make sure that you're doing it right, so to speak.
Really gets against your personality.
I want the 5 things. Like,
yeah.
give me the 5 things, like make sure you give this percentage, or talk to these 3 people before you give, or whatever it is. I think, isn't that what many of us crave for? Maybe it's just my personality, but I think that's what many of us crave for, but Jesus isn't giving it.
Well, that's why I said, in the very beginning of the sermon, like that we want the tangible, visible, tell us what we're supposed to do, because then we see the tangible, visible fruit.
Well, and I think it's easier. Even if it's 50% of what you make is what you give, and then that you're giving in a way that's honoring to God. And that in many ways is easier, even though it could be a very high sum of money. It could be way easier than this heart stuff. Well, make sure you're giving in such a way that's joyful and sacrificial, and not to try to make it about yourself. That to me seems at times only harder than saying, you need to give 50%.
Okay. I'll help you.
It's not 50%. Don't tell me to give 50%.
I think you should give 50%. Don't worry about your heart. Just give 50%. Yeah.
I mean, I think that the only difference between our giving and the world's giving is our motivation. And
what do you mean?
So you see like celebrities who don't claim to know Jesus giving to these foundations.
Yeah.
And, and they get all this praise and stuff for their generosity. And, according to today's passage, then that is the extent of what they're going to get, is that feel good praise.
That is their reward.
That is the reward. But somehow in all of this, when we give with hearts that are submitted to and pleasing to God, I mean, it says over and over in this passage, your Father will reward you. So there's something that we gain when we are seeking to have a heart that's pleasing to God. And I don't know necessarily what that is, but giving doesn't actually separate us out from the world. Like, just because we give, it doesn't mean that we're any different than the world, and I think often generosity is just masked narcissism. It's something that people do to feel good, to bring attention to themselves. And so we're no different from the world in their in the way that they give necessarily, but what marks us is what's behind it, and it's the stuff that nobody can see. It's the stuff that God sees, and yet knowing that God is pleased with us it's huge.
Would you all say that let's say someone decided to give $1 million to the church?
Thank you, someone.
Yep. Thank you. That's our sponsor.
Yeah.
Will, thank you. Let's say someone gave $1 million to the church. Were they generous?
I don't know.
Yep. Why? What do you mean?
If they're making $5 billion a year, it's not generous at all. It might be actually really stingy. And I don't know their heart. Or they could be giving, or on the other flip side, if they're making $5 billion a year, they give $1 million to the town church and also $1 million to $1 million other places, then that's different. But I don't know. I can't see the whole picture.
So, I mean, I asked it was a setup.
Did you just set me up?
No, I mean, just a setup question. So then it doesn't have to do with the amount. That's what I'm getting at.
Right. Yeah. Right.
It has to do with what?
Heart.
Yeah. The heart of what's going on. And Jesus says, beware that you don't practice your righteousness so that you are seen by others, in order to be seen by others. So it's not, he doesn't give amounts. He doesn't give percentages. He doesn't give, regularity. He doesn't give any of that. He just says that the warning is, what is your heart?
Which means we must have some sort of awareness of our hearts.
Yeah.
Where if you give me the 5 things, I don't necessarily have to. I just go do them.
Yeah.
But this is requiring some sort of quiet, prayerful, asking the Spirit to show you what's happening in your heart.
Well, and it's not, he also doesn't say once everything's lined up and once you're ready and once you're out of debt and once you've got these things paid off and once you've got college saved for, like, he doesn't give all those qualifications. The assumption is that when you give. And so I think that we're often easily deceived into believing that once I have all these things figured out, then I can be generous. But the reality is that the generosity needs to come at the front end rather than as an afterthought.
Yeah, it's only responsible to be generous when I make sure that I have everything else lined up well.
Would we look at this passage and say, if that's our perspective, it's still all about us?
I would think so.
Yeah.
It seems that way.
It seems like it.
Well, let's play this out, because there's probably a lot of practicals. Okay, yeah. Let's say for some reason, not for some reason, we're in our job, we're demoted. So there's cutbacks, we're demoted, our pay is cut in half. We're struggling now to pay our electric bill. It's a real struggle, not because we've been irresponsible. It just has happened. In that moment, I think there need to be some really hard decisions that are made, because the command and the call on the life of a follower of Jesus is not removed based on life's circumstances. So you're demoted because of cutbacks in the company. It wasn't because of something you did. You're demoted. Your pay is cut in half. Now you have some real financial struggle. The commands are still there. And we also still have an electric bill to pay. And we've made a commitment that we must pay that. And if we don't do that, then our electric is turned off to the house, or we get fees or fines or whatever that is. And so there's some real hard things that come about. But I think the first thing we do is we say, well, I guess I'll stop giving as I try to figure all of this out. And I think we have to flip that on its head and say, Jesus has called us to give when you give. And so we give, and we trust that God will provide as he sees fit as we walk through this. It may mean we sell our house and we move into a 1-bedroom apartment, and all of the other exceptions that have to take place. But the call on us to be generous is the same. And the only reason I say that, I'm not saying that, this needs to be said, I'm not saying that as a pastor who's looking for your money at a church. So we could change that and go into the following passage about prayer, right? Where we would say, all of these things occur and we're not in a place where we can pray anymore. The command is still there that we are to pray. It's not if you have time, if you feel like it, if you've made the right decisions, that you got the right amount of sleep. The command is still there. The change isn't, I guess I should stop praying. The change is get some different sleep patterns, figure out a different work schedule. Does that make sense? So anyway, take it off of money. I think it still applies on all of these things that Jesus is calling his followers to. These are heart-motivated issues that are where our hearts need to be changed.
And it's really hard.
Yeah. I don't mean to make all those things sound easy. And it's interesting, isn't it, that money's the first one? And we're going to see this later too, that money is tied directly to our hearts.
Yeah, man, sure. Seems like, what is it, time and money? You look at how I use my time and money, you get a pretty good idea of what I value. It gets straight there. As you're talking, Vince, I was thinking, we've seen Jesus do this over and over and over and over again. He gives commands. Maybe reinterpret isn't the right word. He gives us the correct interpretation of these various hard teachings, and they are all gifts he's giving us.
Yeah.
This isn't, you hit this over and over today. This is not a legalistic sort of, now I'm just going to go do these things and I've got it covered. But rather, I think he's inviting us in to receive something beautiful from our Father in giving in this way where it's not about us.
Yeah.
That there are, I don't know what all they are, but there are gifts that he has for us. And I know some of them are going to be seen that he's trustworthy, right?
Yeah.
And that he will reveal more of himself, which is the great end of the Christian, reveal more of himself through this in some way. And so this is a beautiful invitation that Jesus has given us.
Yeah, and the problem is, even in this passage, he says, and your Father in heaven will reward you. I think the problem is we have in mind what we think that gift ought to be, that reward ought to be. Mm. The reward may be, and you're going to be broke, and you're going to learn to trust me.
Yeah.
And that's a beautiful reward. Yeah. You're going to be near me. That may be the reward that God is giving us. And I think we often look at passages like this and we think, well, that's not a gift at all. That's a hardship. That's a detriment to my lifestyle. That's not a reward at all. That's a penalty. That's a punishment. And if we're able to see, just like you said, Eric, that Jesus is talking about the gifts that we get to freely live in.
We get to
freely flourish in. And as we have that perspective, we see these rewards that God is offering and God promises in a way that's like, well, this reward may not have seemed like a reward 5 years ago, but as God has grown me up, I see the true value of this reward, that I get to be near him.
You also get the opportunity to see God provide in ways that you didn't know that he would or think that he would. Like my grandma, my grandfather died when my dad was very young, and my grandma had 4 young kids, no education. And she used to say, I'd get so excited waiting to see how God was going to provide. She's like, I felt the Lord one day just telling me there was a woman on the street and I had to give her $20. And she's like, I argued with the Lord and I told him, that's all I have. Like, I have $20. And she's like, I just had to act in obedience. And so I gave it to this woman. And she said, and then I just waited and I was excited because I was like, Lord, what are you going to provide? How am I going to feed my kids tonight? And so she had this incredible, robust faith because she had trusted the Lord and she knew that he was going to provide. But I think a lot of the times when we live in this culture of excess, we don't get the opportunity to see God working in that way because we don't need him to provide for us.
Yeah, and her reward was actually seeing what God, I think, her reward was actually seeing how God would provide, which drew her in closer, and nearness to God was the gift that he gave her.
Yeah, so if my giving, when it's not about myself, if God could use that to make me less about myself, like break some of these things, or to grow in me a desire like your grandma had, Kirsten, like these are gifts that are, I don't know how you can't put a value on them.
Imperishable.
Yeah. Yeah.
Undefiled, kept in heaven for you.
Yeah, that's good. Can I ask my last question? Or is there anything else you want to talk about first? Get it. Okay. You guys want to know what my last question is?
Oh, man. We should all like make a little wager and just see if we can guess it. You know what? I'll bet $1 million.
Who's going to bet against you?
Well, we have a generous donor who's going to give us $1 million to the church.
I hope so, because if you lose this bet, we're in trouble because we don't have that.
Will, I hope you're listening.
Hey, where do you see God's glory in this text? What raises your affections for him?
I think the fact that Jesus just gets right at the heart, and that these are hard things that it's not easy for anybody. That the Pharisees had an identity built on good works and appearances, and I think we're all tempted towards that, and so Jesus gets right at the heart, and once again puts a magnifying glass on the fact that we're not able to do this, that we will never arrive, we will never be good at any of this, and yet he did it perfectly.
It's good. The first thing that comes to my mind, Eric, maybe it's just because you were just talking about the good gifts that God can give and the rewards there. I think about the very first words of this chapter, that we have a God who desires for us to live lives that are flourishing in him, that he is willing to warn us about the ways that we're living. and calls us to account. That he says, beware. And I mean, that's a warning. That comes from a loving God.
Yeah, this, I think, and that's my perspective on this too. This is pure God's grace to us, this teaching from Jesus. He's inviting us in to live in a way that is different. This is a Christian way of giving, isn't it? Like to your point, Kirsten, people give. You don't be a Christian to give. You give all the time. But to give in such a way where it's not about yourself, that's a different sort of life.
Yeah.
And that sort of life is a better life. And that's what Jesus invites us in. So it's God's gift to this. So that's how I see how my affections for this good God are raised here.
That's good. Hey, can I throw out a couple of reminders?
Yeah.
One reminder just left my brain.
It'll come back.
The other reminder is this coming Sunday, so a week from now, we're going to take a little break from Matthew. We're going to spend some time giving a few updates about just church body life stuff and also walk through our vision and mission as a church. Don't take that as an opportunity to miss because you already know what our vision and mission is. We really do want to rally us together as a church to see some things we believe God's leading us toward and celebrate some things God's done in our church family over the last several months. So that's Sunday, next Sunday.
Did the thing that left your brain come back?
No, it's gone forever.
No all church prayer tomorrow night.
No,
Monday night.
Yeah,
Was that it?
Maybe.
Should we just keep seeing if we can guess what it is?
Maybe just walk through the entire calendar and see if that comes to mind. Nope, that's it.
All right. See you guys Sunday. Again, as always, any questions, comments, feedback about this?
That's what it was.
Is that what it was?
Yeah, I was going to say this probably brings up a lot of questions. And you might even have questions about very, very specific things.
Yeah.
Hey, I have this job. I get paid this much. I have these sort of restrictions. What do you think about how I should give to those in need or give to the church? Maybe you do have some of those very, very specific questions. And while we're not here to give laws and answers to those questions, we're happy to sort of to sort that out and talk through heart issues with you, heart questions.
How can they contact us if they want to?
Send a letter, self-addressed, stamped envelope, 2112 East Harmony Road, 80528.
No, send it to our P.O. box. That's better.
P.O. box, 2064.
Yeah.
Just email Vince or Eric.
I didn't even think about email. Yeah, do email. That would be better.
Or carrier pigeon.
Yeah, that's it.
Or info@thetownchurch.org.
Yeah.
Okay.
There we go. Thanks.
Have a great week.
Yeah,
Love
bye.
you.